Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we turn massive stacks of research and analysis into the essential knowledge you need to be well-informed fast.
Today, we are taking on a giant of 20th century literature, a story that's so strange and so unsettling, it basically invented its own adjective.
We're talking about Kafkaesque and the novella that started it all, Franz Kafka's 1915 masterpiece, The Metamorphosis, or, in the original German, Die Verwandlung.
And our mission for this deep dive is to get to the heart of why a story with, let's face it, a totally bizarre premise still feels so relevant.
It's more than just relevant, it feels like a critique of life right now, even though Kafka started writing it in Prague way back in 1912.
It's amazing, and you can tell how much it affected him personally. Our sources point out that even Kafka himself found the story deeply disturbing. I think he called it repulsive to a friend.
Repulsive, wow. And that brings us right to, well, probably one of the most famous opening lines in all of literature. It just drops you right in.
No warning, no explanation, just boom, you're there.
As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a gigantic insect. Let's just start there.
Yeah, that's really the only place you can start.
So we meet Gregor Samsa. He's this traveling salesman, completely overworked, and he's the only one supporting his entire family.
And then he wakes up, and he's a bug.
Yeah.
Or, some kind of gigantic insect. The text is a little vague on the details.
But the truly fascinating part, and what our analysis kept coming back to, is Gregor's reaction, or I guess his lack of reaction.
Exactly. There's no screaming, no what is happening to me in a terrified way.
Yeah.
The horror isn't the transformation itself. It's his calm, almost rational acceptance of it.
It's so chilling. He has this one thought, what's happened to me? But then right after, he thinks, it wasn't a dream. And that's it. He just accepts it.
And that acceptance, that quietness, sets the tone for this huge existential anxiety that runs through the whole story.
It's Kafka saying that these absurd, life-shattering things can just happen. No reason, no explanation. You're just left to deal with it.
And what's the first thing he deals with? I mean, you'd think the priority would be, I'm a giant insect, I need a doctor or something.
Right. But no, he immediately starts worrying about his job.
His job. It's incredible. He's lying there, can't move properly, and his mind just goes straight to the train schedule.
There's that great line, oh God, he thought, what a strenuous career it is that I've chosen. He's more stressed about being late for work than about his new anatomy.
Which is where the critique really begins. Our sources highlight how much Kafka hated his own bureaucratic job. That feeling of being drained and dehumanized by work is so potent here.
So Gregor's fear isn't existential, it's professional. He's terrified of his boss, the chief clerk, showing up.
And that connects directly to this huge theme of identity and, well, dehumanization. Gregor's whole sense of self, his entire worth, is completely tied to his productivity.
The moment he can't work, his life just stops.
It's this incredibly powerful critique of a system where your value is based on what you produce. If you're not useful, you're nothing.
So the physical transformation into a bug is really just showing an alienation that was already there.
Absolutely. And Kafka's writing style is key to all of this. It's so direct, so matter-of-fact.
Almost like a reporter filing a story.
Exactly. He describes this insane, surreal event in this very clinical, objective prose. And that's what makes it Kafkaesque. The nightmare is treated as mundane.
The absurdity isn't that a man turned into an insect. The absurdity is that his first thought is, how am I going to get to the office?
And that forces you, the reader, to accept it and focus on the real horror, the family's reaction.
Okay, so that's a perfect transition. If the first part is about this kind of external absurdity, the next part is really the core tragedy. It's all about the family.
Yeah, the focus shifts entirely inward to the dynamics of family, obligation, and what you could call conditional love.
We've got his sister, Greet, and his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Samsa. And before all this, they were completely dependent on him. He was paying off his father's old debts, supporting everyone.
His life was already not his own. It was defined by duty, not by what he actually wanted.
And you see that so clearly in his thoughts. There's that one part where he thinks, if I didn't have my parents to think about, I'd have given him my notice a long time ago.
He was already trapped. He just didn't have a shell and 6 legs yet. He thought this sacrifice was the foundation of his relationship with them.
But the second he stops being the provider, that whole foundation just crumbles.
Instantly. His value was purely economic, and when the money stops, the love, or what he thought was love, starts to fade away.
And that's where the rejection and isolation really begins. But it's not a big, dramatic event. It's a slow burn.
That's classic Kafka. The cruelty isn't a loud explosion. It's a quiet, creeping indifference. As he stays in his room, he just becomes part of the furniture, a problem to be managed.
There's that line that just gives you chills. They had grown accustomed to it, both the family and Gregor himself. They got used to the horror.
And that gradual acceptance of cruelty is maybe the most devastating thing in the whole book.
Especially when you look at his sister, Grit. I mean, at first she's his only connection to humanity.
Right. She's the one who brings him food, who cleans his room. She tries.
But over time, as the reality of their financial situation hits, that care turns into resentment. He stops being her brother and becomes this monster, this burden.
Her transformation is almost as profound as his. She goes from being this compassionate sister to a cold, pragmatic bookkeeper of their suffering.
And then comes that brutal line, Gregor's sister was no longer Gregor's sister.
That's the moment his humanity truly dies in their eyes, long before his body gives out.
I mean, to play devil's advocate for a second, the sources do point out the family was struggling, they were poor, they had to take on boarders. Is it purely coldness, or is it also just a desperate survival instinct?
That's a really important question, and I think that's part of Kafka's genius. Of course, economic pressure is a huge driver. They have to survive.
That's not totally black and white.
It's not. But the tragedy lies in their choice, to see him as the enemy of their survival, instead of as a suffering member of the family. It's not just about self-preservation. It's about the complete erasure of empathy. They could have tried to find another way.
But instead, she becomes the one who says he has to go. She becomes the voice for his elimination.
He's just a problem to be solved. If you're not contributing, you're a burden. And that isolation, it becomes a death sentence.
Which brings us to the bigger picture here. The theme that resonates most today is probably just that profound sense of alienation and isolation.
Absolutely. Gregor is cut off physically, emotionally, socially. It taps into this deep, primal human fear of being cast out, of being seen as disposable.
And at the center of all of it is this one big unanswered question. Why? Why did this happen? The book never tells us.
And it's not supposed to. Our sources are very clear that the lack of explanations is the whole point.
It's part of the absurdity.
It is. The world Kafka presents is chaotic and meaningless. Terrible things happen for no reason, and the system doesn't owe you an explanation. You're not meant to solve the mystery of the bug. You're meant to watch how humans react to it.
And that human reaction is just devastating right up to the very end.
It really is, because despite everything they do to him, he never stops being human on the inside. He still feels love for them.
Yeah, that quote is just heartbreaking. He thought back on his family with deep emotion and love. He's dying, and he's thinking of them with love.
He loses his humanity in their eyes, but maybe, just maybe, that's his most human moment. This selfless love right at the end.
Which makes his actual death so quiet and pathetic. The line is just, then his head sank down completely and he dies. Alone, unnoticed.
And the family's reaction afterward is maybe the most brutal part of the whole novella.
Relief.
Pure, unadulterated relief.
Yeah.
A burden has been lifted. They go out, they take a trip to the countryside, they start making plans.
They immediately start thinking about Great's future, about finding her a husband. His death is the beginning of their new life.
It's Kafka's bleakest message, really, that sometimes the system, whether it's society or just the family unit, it functions better once the problem is removed.
So after all this, why does this story still hit so hard a century later?
Because those fears are universal and timeless. The fear of losing your identity, of being rejected, of your worth being tied only to your job.
That feels especially true now with, the gig economy and so much pressure to be constantly productive.
It's the ultimate nightmare scenario, isn't it? What happens when you can no longer do the thing that defines you? Kafka just gave that fear a bug suit. The fear of being useless is often scarier than the monster itself.
So to wrap this up, we have looked at this incredibly absurd opening, the tragic way his family's love proves to be conditional, and this timeless critique of tying a person's value to their economic output.
And I think the key takeaway is that tragic irony. Gregor lost his humanity in everyone else's eyes the moment he stopped being useful. His real isolation was complete long before his heart actually stopped.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to take away. It's a question that our sources kept circling, and it's a deep one. So consider this. Was Gregor Samsa more alienated before or after his physical transformation?
Was his life as an unhappy, overworked salesman, trapped in a routine he hated, really any less alienating than his life as an insect locked in a room?
That's a profound question about what it means to be human in the modern world.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Kafka's world. We hope it gives you a new appreciation for the enduring power of the metamorphosis.
We'll see you next time.
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.